The word for king in Spanish is rey. The connection between king and my family name had never been mentioned in all of my trips to Nicaragua prior to this week. But when I visited the community of El Parizia, the paradise, near Darío in Nicaragua, our friend Mel West, retired Methodist pastor in Colombia that contributes to a lot of our activities among the poor here in Nicaragua, had raised the money to build 25 little cinder block houses on a small tract of land next to the coffee plantation where everyone who lives in those houses works. It's the only employment they have. And it was one of the deals with the landowner of one hand washing the other. The Rainbow Network agreed to finance the building of the houses if the plantation owner would just donate a little bit of land and run water to that land and provide the latrines for the houses, which he entirely agreed to. But of course, these necessary latrines, I mean, if you're going to put 200 people on 3 acres of land, you have to have sanitary latrines. But once we got title to the land and built the houses, the plantation owner began to renege on the rest of his commitment to put in the water lines and build the latrines. Keith Jaspers, the Rainbow Network founder, was visibly quite angry about this news, and he wanted to go visit the rancher immediately. While we were standing there in El Parizia with our Nicaraguan staff, he said, "Take me to his house." And our staff started to look very nervous because an angry Keith Jaspers talking to the plantation owner, who is the employer of all the 200 people that were going to live there, might not have gone well. So they promised us that they would go meet with the plantation owner if only we would go back to the hotel, and they would let us know how the negotiations turned out. So we met them the next morning, and the best deal that they were able to strike was that the landowner would pay for the water lines if we would pay for the latrines. And the latrines were going to cost about $3,000. So standing around people who wanted to be able to move from their mud huts out in the jungle into these new homes and couldn't do it until the latrines were built, I said that we would pay for them. Unlike the outhouses we used to build, these set up on a concrete base. You walk up 3 steps and open the door to what some might say would be a rather majestic looking throne, which is why, from that point on, my good friend Keith Jaspers introduced me to the villagers as El Rey de Latrinos, or the king of the latrines. And I hope you enjoy that, because that's as good as Keith's humor ever gets. I mean, he's really good at a lot of things, but he's not much of a stand-up comedian. But yo soy el rey de latrinos. But the important issue is the difference between saying that you will do something and actually doing it. I have no doubt that when the plantation owner was presented with the opportunity to have permanent houses built for his employees that would keep them reliably in that area, because you've got to have enough workers at the time that the coffee is ready to be harvested, that it was worth it to him to donate the land. It was worth it to him to spend a few $1,000s on infrastructure to keep those employees ready to work. But once it came time to lay out the cash, and of course the houses were already built, he was rather less motivated. Now, you folks do a lot, both for the Rainbow Network and for the homeless poor of Springfield. We started this church 3.5 years ago. Our very first day, we gathered shoes for children in Nicaragua. We've done that on our anniversary ever since, and have begun helping to pay to ship those shoes down there, and then also gathering school supplies and other things. But that night, not knowing how you all would feel about it, I sent out an email saying that I'd pledged us to spend $3,000 on those latrines. And the next morning, by the time I went to breakfast, we had it. We had all the money that we needed. And this morning, as of right now, we have over $6,000, allowing us to provide latrines not only for the village of La Parizia, but another one that has just been started in Darío. What's the name of that village, Keith? San Pedro, that's just has its first house completed and another 25 houses that are being built. So we really get to be the kings of the latrines now. But it reminds me of that parable in Matthew 21 in which Jesus tells a story about a man who has two sons, and he says to the eldest, "Go into the vineyard and work today." And the son says, "No, I'm not going to do it." But later he thinks better of it and he goes out and works. And then the same father goes to the other son and tells him to go work in the vineyard, and he says, I'm going right now, but he never goes. In any contest between what you say and what you actually do, it's always what you actually do that matters. Now, that's a problem for some religious folks. We have for centuries had this profound and strong notion of orthodoxy. And people even will ask you, what church do you go to? What does your church believe? We act as if all of religion is about what we say we believe and believing the right things, thinking the right thoughts. And we believe those things with such vigor that there are times that Catholics have told Protestants that they're not Christians, and times that Protestants have told Catholics that they're not Christians. And there are all these self-congratulatory little groups of Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses and the Church of Christ and some of the Baptist groups that are convinced that they are, in fact, the only Christians. And then there is our little liberal outpost here on the east side of town, and we may be the only truly unifying lightning rod of Catholics, Protestants, Baptists, and the Church of Christ, because they all agree that we're not Christians. And as soon as I have just a few free minutes, I'm going to sit myself down and I'm going to worry about what they think. But don't hold your breath. We will probably never say the right things to satisfy our religious peers. But as long as we keep doing the right things, then I think we're okay with God, even if we don't have a lot of friends who meet under steeples in the Ozarks. I don't want to sound too strident about that, but really, who needs the approval of churches in Springfield if you've got 60 thrones in Nicaragua? Okay. Gandhi once said that a religion that takes no account of practical affairs and does not help to solve them is no religion. If your religion is all in your head, it's not really a religion. The Christian religion based on the teachings of Jesus is a religion of radical compassion, a religion of great personal sacrifice. It is costly to be a disciple of Christ. It is costly because we have to sacrifice to change the world. We have to fight injustice. We have to work for peace and mercy. The religion that evolved in the name of Jesus, though, is a religion of beliefs intended to magically get your soul into heaven, which is not a part of the teachings of Jesus. It has nothing to do with the religion of following Jesus. A religion that's only in your head, a religion of creeds and beliefs, is not a religion. Now, I don't want to fault people who believe differently than we do. Most church-going folk believe some things that just sounds like magic and superstition to me, and I'm not. But if they will meet me in Managua, if they will help build houses, if they will help build latrines, if they will help feed the hungry, if they will meet us at Bill's Place, if they will meet us at Crosslines, if they will work with us to end payday loan businesses, if they will work with us to raise the minimum wage, then I really don't care what they believe. I don't care if they believe that Jesus was God. I don't care if they're Hindu. I don't care if they're Buddhist. I don't care if they're Muslim. If they are working for the good, if they are taking into account the practical issues of living and attempting to deal with that, that is a religion that I can respect. In Buddhism, there is a tradition that says, the Buddha within me bows to the Buddha within you. And I think we can replace that, the Christ in me bows to the Christ in you, inasmuch as we have a sister or brother who is a partner with us in fighting poverty and fighting injustice and working for civil liberties and working for social justice for the oppressed people of the world, then we have a partner. They are like us in community of faith. The Marcus Borg book that many of us have lately been reading together, Speaking Christian, discusses this crucial difference between orthodoxy and orthopraxy. The difference being having the right Christian beliefs, which is orthodoxy, or having the right Christian life or practice, orthopraxy. Borg tends to say that our religion started out as a religion of orthopraxy, a way based on a radical life of compassion, a religion primarily practiced among the poor. Borg, as do many other religious historians, traces the change, the shift in the balance from orthopraxy to orthodoxy to the time of Emperor Constantine in the 4th century, saying that basically the royal family took over the religion and imposed the creedal form of religion on the entire empire. In fact, I tend in my own writing to make the distinction between the teachings of the historical Jesus and the religion of Constantine, though since most of the churches meeting under steeples around town have a religion that really kind of looks like the religion of Constantine. They really don't like that nomenclature, but for all practical purposes, that's how it looks to me. And to be fair, it isn't like there really was just one kind of Christianity for 300 years and then suddenly Constantine changed it to another. That really isn't fair. It's a convenient way of looking at history, but it wasn't exactly like that. There are things in the letters of Paul, there are things in the Gospel according to John that push the scale towards orthodoxy, that push towards believing the right things. There are a lot of things, though, in the Synoptic Gospels and in the letter of James that push that scale towards orthopraxy. We just know which side of the fence that we want to be on, don't we? But without ever arguing biblical interpretation or the theological debate between orthodoxy and orthopraxy, you don't need a posse and a 30-minute head start to know which of the sons that went into the vineyard, the one that actually went to the vineyard and worked, is the one who is the hero of that parable. And in El Parisio, there's no contest between the plantation owner who said that he would build sanitary latrines and you folks who built sanitary latrines. Now, I don't want to encourage hubris about this. I'm just trying to be real about what it means to actually practice your faith. Now, you have to be careful about what you take from the New Testament book of Acts as being historical. It's usually not. I mean, the book of Acts is sort of an apologetic for the life and ministry of Paul. But you do catch a number of historical inferences from it that are almost accidental. And right in the middle of the book of Acts, there are 7 times that the writer of the book of Acts refers to Christians as being followers of the way. It wasn't a new set of beliefs. It was a new way of living. That the early church was not just people who confessed, I believe in God the Father, creator of heaven and earth, and in Jesus Christ his only Son. They were described as a people who followed the way. It wasn't that they changed so much about what they thought as they changed the way they treated other people. Now, it was the later church that turned Christianity into a set of beliefs that just had some lifestyle implications, but I'm convinced that originally the community of faith that gathered around the teachings of Jesus were people who chose a way of life who happened to share some core beliefs. The scale just got tipped. The emerging church, the church that will likely survive into the next century, is the church that is able to restrike that balance and again become a church that is relevant because of the way that we live and not because of our doctrines and creeds or our theology. Our Old Testament lesson today is that familiar passage from the prophet Jeremiah, who said that one day we'll stop teaching beliefs because people will actually have faith. It isn't a matter of believing the right things. It isn't a matter of reciting the right creeds. It isn't a matter of repeating the right magical incantation. It isn't about saying what you believe. It is about being what you believe. Now, I'm not saying that the people who focus on orthodoxy are just full of it, but I am applauding you for building latrines to dispose of it. And any double entendre that you draw from that is your personal responsibility. Senior Keith Jaspers, who founded the Rainbow Network, is with us, and I wanted him to be able to be the first one to flush the toilet for us. So.
I just asked Roger if I could come by for a minute and thank you. In all of the fun and jokes and humor that Roger's displayed, it's really a serious matter, and it's really a blessing to all of these families. When we're in Nicaragua and we look at the family who's living now in this mud and stick hut, and often there'll be extended family with them, 8, 10, 12 people in a little hut that's maybe 12 feet square or something like that. And it rains 6 months of the year, and they tell us they get wet from both sides. The roof always leaks, and then the water comes rushing in across the floor. And as we look at that mud and stick hut, Roger and I say, that's Good Friday. That's Christ suffering on the cross. And then we go down the highway a quarter of a mile or so to El Pajarizo, which is this beautiful little valley where all these new houses are built, but nobody's living in them yet because there aren't any latrines. And I talked to Nelson, told him you had raised the money. Your congregation is coming up with the money to do that. Said, when will they be ready? And he says, approximately 2 weeks from today. What day is that, 2 weeks from today?
Easter Sunday.
So, Good Friday to Easter Sunday. Thank you so very much. It really, truly is a wonderful gift, and thank you for that.
Thanks.
You've been watching a progressive Christian video from the Community Christian Church of Springfield, Missouri. We encourage our viewers to donate to our efforts in feeding the homeless and hungry of our community. Write to us at reverenddray@aol.com for more information.